And welcome to Under Center with Kirk Cousins.
Cousins from under center, straight drop. It's another deep shot. Center of the field, on another run. 20-15-10, touchdown.
Well, Kirk, it's a great opportunity to chat with one of my longtime friends, the guy you work with closely with the Minnesota Vikings, the longtime PR director, Bob Hagan, who has a lot of stories, not just from inside the Vikings organization, but about the passing of Sid Hartman. He was very close with. Bob, welcome to Under Center. First of all, I'm trying to remember myself, how many years have you been with the Vikings organization, and in particular the role you're currently in?
I've been with the team for 30 years.
Wow. My goodness.
So only half as long as your career right now. So.
Yeah. You started like I did as an intern, right?
I did. In 1991, Jerry Burns was the head coach. That was quite some time ago.
Yeah, it really was. But throughout this time, I know you developed a very close relationship. And I hate to even use this term with the late Sid Hartman. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth. I'm sure it feels that way to you as well. But you had a special bond with him, especially as the years went by, correct?
I did. When I got to the team, in 1991, he was a young 70-year-old, and and people said, "Hey, this guy's not going to be around much longer. You're not going to have to worry about helping this guy out." And boy, I'm really glad they were all wrong, because I developed a great friendship with him, both personally and professionally over those years, and he was amazing. And just when players would come in and I would say, "Hey, this guy's 82 or 88," or when Kirk came, he was 98. It's amazing.
Bob, I met you, Bob, the same day I met Sid, which was on my free agent visit back in March of 2018, and I believe it was Sid's birthday that day. He was turning 98, as you said, and I didn't know all about Sid. I had heard of him, but got to meet him, got to get a couple questions from him during the press conference that day, and I could feel right away the impact he had over his career, the influence he had, the difference he had made. And you were with Sid the night before he passed, which speaks to the relationship you've had with him. And then when I asked you in the fall of 2018 if I could have dinner with Sid at Murray's, I went to you to set it up, and then you came along with us. And so you've obviously had a great relationship with him over the years. What do you remember of that night at Murray's and the conversation we had?
Well, first of all, I'll go back a little bit. You came up to me and you said, "Hey, we found out that Murray's was his spot, and
right.
that he had been, involved with that restaurant since it began." And you came up and you're like, "Let's go to dinner with him some night." And I said, "Yeah, I'll set it up." And people say stuff like that all the time, but you're a follow-through guy. And you came to me like the next day and you said, "We're going Tuesday, September 11th, or Tuesday, September 18th." And I'm like, "I'll check it out with him." And Sid picked the first one, and we went on September 11th. And I mean, what's amazing is that you always do your homework, obviously, for what you do for a living, but you did your homework that day because you got there and you knew something about him that I didn't know and he didn't know. That September 11th, 1945 is when he wrote his first ever column, for the Star Tribune. And so it was the 73-year anniversary on the actual night we went out to dinner.
Yeah.
So there was Tom West and I and the
Yep.
PR staff.
Yep.
There was Kirk brought Trevor Siemian, his backup quarterback, because he wanted him to hear the stories too. And then Sid was there with Lacey, his assistant. There's 6 of us.
Yeah.
And we got kind of a quiet booth back in the corner. And, what I really remember about that night is just like Tom and I had heard most of these stories before, but you and Trevor hadn't. And you just kept wanting more and more and asking him about the Lakers and other stuff. And, I'm sitting there going at one point, "Hey, we probably got to get going." And I remember what you said. You're like, "We're getting dessert, aren't we?" And so you ordered desserts. All of us had desserts, and it was fantastic. And I do remember one time, like when we were walking out of the restaurant, and you were the new guy in town, the quarterback and everything, and I just remembered that as we were walking out, I go, hey, as many people will know Sid
Yes.
as will
Yes.
know you,
Yes.
and people are, they knew who you were too, but
Right.
they definitely were like, yeah, Sid's here tonight, and he's with the quarterback. Oh my goodness.
And I know, Bob, you're a treasure trove of stories, of Sid stories, but if you could relate the one chance encounter that the odd couple of all time, Sid meeting Prince. Was that at the Super Bowl?
That was at the Super Bowl. So the story goes like this. So Sid was about 90, the famous Super Bowl that Prince played at halftime.
Miami, right?
In Miami, halftime with the rain and everything. So Sid calls me and he goes, I'm going to come over to the media center on Thursday. And he goes, I'll be there. He calls me in the morning and he says, I'll be there at 2 o'clock. And I go, that's not going to work. I'm involved at the Prince press conference. And he's like, well, I'd like to meet that guy. And I go, no. So, he can't hear well, and I'm trying to explain, because he thinks it's as easy for me to set up as talking to the Vikings backup linebacker or something. He thinks it's that easy. I'm like, I can't get you a Sid. And I go, I'll just explain it to him when he gets here. So he gets there, and one thing, too, he's very persistent. That's another word about Sid.
Oh,
one of the
was he
most
ever? Was
persistent
he
people
ever?
ever. So he gets there, and he goes, I really want to see that Prince guy. And that's what he called him. And I said, and I don't know. I was crazy, and I just said, all right, I'll give it my best shot. So I have an official pass that can go anywhere and get backstage. He doesn't. So we go over it. I said, just follow me. And he just followed me through the first checkpoint. And Sid, we got in. And I'm like, oh, great. But then we got to the second checkpoint. And then I said, Sid, you just need to be quiet here. You need to just let me do the talking. I had credentials around the neck. He wasn't always good at being quiet either. And I talked our way through there with him. And I'm like, we're home free. But then we get to the third and final checkpoint. And the guy there says, sorry, sir, nobody goes beyond this no matter what type of pass you had. And I used my best sales techniques at that time, and I said, listen, sir, with all due respect, the guy who's about to walk on stage and the guy standing here next to me, 90-year-old Sid Hartman, these are the two most well-known people from the state of Minnesota. And he trusted me, and he let us through, and we got through. And Prince was walking down this hallway. He's about 20 yards from us, long ways. And he's just about to turn right and go onto the stage. There's 1,500 people at this press conference. And he's just about to turn right. And Sid yells, hey, Prince! Hey, Prince! And we get accosted by 15 security people.
Oh.
And Prince is at the end of the hall. And he turns his head real slow, and he walked all the way back to talk to us and talk to Sid for 5 minutes. He knew that voice. He knew who Sid was. And when they got back there, they talked about Minnesota sports, and they both went to the same high school, 50 years apart.
Did
North
they
High
really?
School.
It was an
Wow.
amazing story, and as
Wow.
as I told it, it was kind of one rock star meeting another rock star. So
Well, Sid has a pretty impressive Rolodex. I mean, that's one thing I was told when I got here. They said you'd be surprised if you heard some of the names of people he could call right now, and they would pick up the phone. So I guess over 100 years, you meet quite a few people. But he was a pretty heavy hitter when they came to the contacts.
Yeah, I don't know if it was his 70th anniversary of the paper and WCCO, but he had Bobby Knight there speak for him, Lou Holtz, George Steinbrenner, and of course Bud Grant, those four people. And obviously those people are all at the top of their profession, but I think what always struck me about the relationship, at least with those four guys, is that he knew all of them like in the 40s or 50s. He knew all of them before they became head coaches. He
Yeah.
knew all of them before they became owners.
Right.
He knew all of them before they became famous. And so once again, I'll go back to the loyalty thing.
Yeah.
It was quite amazing to have all those relationships over all those years.
But such great memories that all of us had who got in contact with Sid. He knew my dad, his brothers growing up in North Minneapolis, and all the way through our lives. I mean, he was there for all of us, and his loyalty was the number one word. You're right, Bob Hagan. He was loyal to his friends, and he had a lot of them.
He did, and he was great to everybody at the Vikings. I mean, I got to share 30 of the 60 years of the Vikings, with him. But he was great to the coaches, the players, the staff, the media. He was great to the Wilt family when they took over the team 15 years ago. And he's a true treasure for our community, but also really the whole country for what he brought, to the state of Minnesota.
I would say time for two more, Bob Hagan, but we're out of time. We appreciate sharing some of your great stories with the one and only Sid Hartman.
All right, thanks for having me, both of you.